Hello, everybody. How is life going? I'm on vacation right now, therefore have a lot of free time on my hands. As an enjoyer of physics class and food, and as an Asian person, I thought it would be my duty to ferment rice to turn it into an alcoholic snack, which is, by the way, very suited for someone my age. It's very simple. In fact, I have my own homemade lemon alcohol here in my room thanks to a friend, which I haven't tasted yet and will now. Cheers! That is bad. That is. Anyways, let's ferment rice. Firstly, we need the essential ingredients, which will be glutinous rice and a certain fermentation starter named Luk Pang, that I had to order online with, of course, my mom's money. White sugar will also be helpful for the fermentation process. The starter looks a bit like a meringue cookie that should not be fed to your dog, because it could cause fatal alcohol poisoning. Anyways, the thing contains mold and yeast inoculum in rice flour, mixed with herbs and galangal as an antibacterial agent, if you're curious. The ratio of rice to 1 Luk Pang ball is 4 1/8 cups. That's how much it looks like, by the way. Since that is slightly too much for me to consume, I will use 1.5 cup of rice, therefore dividing the ball 8.5 times. The first step is to waste water by washing the rice thoroughly, so the water becomes clear, then soak it completely overnight. I woke up at 11 AM, so it stayed 14 hours in water, which of course is more than plentiful, and 4 hours will do. Second step is to cook the rice, and ideally not in a rice cooker, because of this. So I made a new batch, and this time I will use a steamer. I firstly filled the pot with a few centimeters of water, then wet a cloth to hold the rice and prevent it from sticking. Make sure to spread out the rice evenly, and make a hole in the middle to let the steam pass properly. Then I realized the induction cooker didn't support the steamer, therefore I turned on the gas. Now I heated the water on higher than 100-degree heat to boil it, and let it sit for 30 minutes until the rice cooked. Then my tripod filmed me during the cooking process. Oh, fuck. And then my camera overheated and shut itself down. By that time I was seriously unsure if it was hotter than the rice, and I desperately needed it, therefore I put it in the fridge. There was no warning about it being hazardous, alright? Anyways, once my camera efficiently cooled down, I secured the tripod properly this time, and once the 30 minutes had passed, I opened the steamer lid to fold the rice over itself to group the grains together, as you can see with my phone's superior camera quality. I also had a taste of that rice pre-fermentation because I had no clue how the results would turn out to be. Now I transferred the rice in another bowl and deprived myself of the satisfying texture of the sticky grains by soaking them because that was a necessary step. Then I smashed the starter and measured very approximately 1/8 of it and mixed it in the rice. I think there was a lack of sanitation, but there was no turning back now. And lastly, I added less than a tablespoon of sugar to aid the fermentation. Now my creation was not looking too appetizing, but the goodness would appear later. So from a scientific perspective, let me explain. To make alcohol, you need to ferment sugar. Luckily, rice is mostly composed of starch, which are long chains of glucose molecules linked together. By incorporating the starter in the rice, the mold species present in it will break down the starch into its individual glucose molecules in a process called saccharification. And secondly, the yeast species in the starter will ferment that glucose to turn it into ethanol with carbon dioxide as a byproduct. That is the very basic explanation. I'm not insinuating that my viewers are dumb. So the longer you ferment something, the more of the desired product you will have, and in this case it's ethanol. Therefore I will make 3 batches, one that will ferment for 24 hours, one for 48, and another for 72. Therefore I split this repulsive mess into the airtight containers and sealed them correctly to put and leave in my cupboard to ferment. Don't forget that Southeast Asia is a continuous furnace, and ambient temperatures there happen to favor fermentation. Once a day had passed, the first batch had liquid seeping out of the rice. That was a great sign that excited me, but of course I was delighted to discover that my rice had gone moldy. At first I thought it was part of the process, but after further researching I was mistaken. I decided to continue because too much effort was invested. Remain for the taste test. Once the 48 and 72 hours had passed, and the rice in the containers had secreted the white liquid, I stored them in the fridge before starting the long-awaited taste test. Just for reference, this is how the rice should resemble compared to my nefarious creation. So, I think we should start testing the free batches. All of these are moldy. I'm going to try to scrape off the mold and still eat it because I want to taste it. Indeed, I initially sampled the first batch. From this only, you can guess how the rest will turn out to be. Why is it sour? Sourness is normal, but this was too much. Normally it should be sweet with a hint of alcohol. After rinsing my mouth, it was time for the 48-hour batch. Ugh. Needless to say, it was atrocious. Horrible. Time for the 72-hour batch, and now I'm really scared. It smells noticeably more alcoholic. So, can I try it out? You might think I'm filthy, but I had to taste this. Afterwards, I needed mouth cleansing. Anyways, to conclude, they all tasted sweet with scarcely any alcoholic notes. However, they were highly sour, which was very undesirable. Not to mention the texture was stringy, making this a failed experiment that tasted awful. Hello fellow viewers, I hope you enjoyed the video. It took me a month to make, mostly because of this. I wanted to try something new and I did. So yeah, goodbye.